When U.S. Army soldiers are sent into the Grand Canyon to help facilitate the recovery of bizarre artifacts, they think they're just going to guard a couple egghead archaeologists while they're dusting things off with little brooms. Little do these soldiers know they're about to find out who would win in a fight, a highly trained soldier or a giant spider with a taste for flesh. And then we take a look at the story of a sadistic serial killer who also has a taste for flesh. Human flesh, that is. And that's only the start of the disturbing secrets of the cannibal who loved to eat children. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio.
Actually, I'm a lot freaked out.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. You guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. You're not going to have fun after that second story because it's disturbing, it's creepy and bizarre. But who else to take us on this journey into one of the creepier episodes of Dead Rabbit Radio other than one of our legacy Patreon supporters? Everyone get on your feet and give it up for Bryce Dawson. Woohoo! Yeah, he's all kind of looking around. He's like, I don't know if I want to be on this episode. Not many of your episodes get a disturbing content warning. Well, Bryce, you're here. Thanks for giving me money all of this time. Thanks for supporting the show. Sorry you ended up in this one. It's pretty rough. But you're going to be our captain or pilot this episode. There's not much you can do about it now. If you guys can't support the show financially, I totally understand. I really do. Just help spread the word about Dead Rabbit Radio. That helps out so much. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone you know. Dead Rabbit Radio is your favorite paranormal show. That is how you can help the show grow. Bryce, I'm going to go ahead and toss you the keys to the Dead Rabbit Dune Buggy. Everyone climb on board as he fires up this bad boy. We're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Why don't you drive us all the way out to the Grand Canyon? And as we're headed out there, another quick reminder. This weekend, September 28th and 29th, is the Big Sky Paranormal Conference in Butte, Montana. I will be speaking there September 28th. I will be doing a virtual presentation, and I hope if anyone's in the area, you guys can come to show up. More information is available on bigskyparanormalcon.com. The link's also in the show notes, bigskyparanormalcon.com. And even if you're not there to see me, because there's a bunch of other great stuff going on that weekend, just show up. Support your local paranormal conferences. Even if you can't get to Montana, find out what's available in your area, because I really, really think you guys would love it. If you guys enjoy this show, you guys would love seeing this stuff in person. I'm not saying you're going to go there and there's going to be a ghost. There's not going to be a giant spider walking around the vendor area, but you know what I mean? Like, just be part of the community. It's really awesome. You're supporting local ghost organizations, and then you get to meet a bunch of people, and it creates more of a community. So even if you're not going to the paranormal conferences I speak at, find out what's in your area and go and have a good time. It'll be a blast. You guys will have fun. Bryce is driving us out to the Grand Canyon. We're in the great state of Arizona. And now he's, like, driving down. I'm sure there's, like, a road into the Grand Canyon. I know, like, you can't, like, drive off of it unless you're, like, Fast and Furious. But I'm sure there's a place, there's, like, a hill. Because I know people ride horses and mules around. They get on the bottom and people whitewater raft. So I'm sure there's, like, some sort of access ramp for vehicles. Actually, I know that's true. Because the story we're about to cover is a bunch of army men down there, and I doubt they walked. I'm sure there was a big truck that drove them down. So anyways, we're at this army camp. We're putting on our camouflage. We're all dressed up like armadillos. They don't know that we're there. We're true camouflage. Look at that lame army camouflage. You're wearing all green, and you're in Arizona. You stick out like a sore thumb. We're watching these army men walk around. We're about to meet one of them. We'll call him Sam. And he's a army dude. He's a soldier. He did a couple tours of combat in Afghanistan. But when they're over there, they're like shooting. Terrorists are all blowing up and stuff like that. Who were those guys over there? The Taliban. They're like, guys, run, run. The army's here. And Sam's like standing on top of a burned out Humvee. And he's like, beat it, terrorists. Don't ever come back until we pull all of our troops out in a couple of years. Then you can come back. Oh my goodness, that was so awful. Anyways, they're like, the army's like, yay, we won, and we'll continue to win this war forever. Well, eventually they get taken out of Afghanistan, and their commander's like, listen, guys, I know it was a hard time in Afghanistan, but it'll be smooth sailing from here on out. I have a new mission out for you guys, though. I need you guys all deployed to the Grand Canyon. And Sam's like, sir, that's kind of a weird detail for us. We're battle-hardened soldiers. What are we going to be doing in the Grand Canyon? Poking donkeys with sticks? And the commander's like, ha ha ha, no, don't interrupt me. Apparently, it's been brought to my attention that the U.S. government needs soldiers in the Grand Canyon. Soldiers just like you, battle-hardened war survivors. Apparently, there have been some eggheads, some scientists and archaeologists poking around in the tunnels underneath the Grand Canyon. Did you know there are tunnels under there? And the soldiers are like, what? No, I didn't know there were tunnels. Yeah, there's tunnels under there. Tunnels everywhere. A lot of them are unexplored. Actually, he starts going to the Wikipedia page. He's like, look at a bunch of unexplored tunnels. He goes, in some of these unexplored tunnels, apparently they've found artifacts. Things that shouldn't be there. Old things. Weird things. And the soldiers are like, ooh, sounds exciting. Commander says, yes, the scientists, those eggheads at NASA or DARPA or whatever, one of those weird groups, they're sending down a bunch of people in lab coats to pull some of this stuff out. Well, apparently, they've run into a bit of a problem. The commander clicks a button on the slideshow. It's a drawing of a scientist being devoured by a spider and... What? Yes, apparently, in these tunnels that have artifacts that are older than the indigenous people who live in the area, like whoever put these artifacts down there, predated the arrival of the indigenous cultures from Asia. Long time ago. We're talking like 6, 7, maybe even 10,000 years. These artifacts may have been down there. This place is also full of giant spiders. I probably should have started off with that. They're all sleeping. They're all artifacts. That's boring. Wake me up when something explodes. He's like, yes, apparently these tunnels are full of spiders. Now, some of them are normal-sized spider, but they do quite a bit of damage. You don't want to get bit by one of these. And he shows like a little clip of a scientist getting attacked by a giant, not a giant, but just a regular sized spider. He's all scaredy cat. He's like, ah, it's a daddy long leg. But he goes, yes, we're all laughing at this scientist. However, some of these spiders are the sizes of a car. A real car, not an electric vehicle. We're talking like an 87 Buick. Click, shows a picture of a giant spider crawling out of a cave. And soldiers are like, oh my God. Yeah, that's not a drawing either. That's a real photo of a giant spider. The cameraman shortly died after taking it. Giant spiders, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I need you in those caves. I mean, their spiders are going to kill a bunch of people. They already have. But we really need these artifacts, so we want battle-hardened soldiers who've seen it all to go into a cave with nothing but a weapon on their back, a pistol on their side, state-of-the-art communication technology, a couple of grenades. You will, trust me, you will be fully equipped for this mission. But we need you to go down there and protect those scientists. What they've found in those tunnels may change the world. Move out, men! The guys are all running out of the office. Santa Claus is there. He's like, I only have a couple days of work. The rest of the time, I travel around with the U.S. Army, killing people. The soldiers hop on their helicopters and fly out to the Grand Canyon. And sure enough, Sam's there, and he's like, dude, they weren't joking. This guy's the helicopter's getting all caught in webs. Half of his team is killed before they even land. Sam realizes really quick, these spiders are actually an issue. I mean, I believed it when my commander said it, but it was kind of hard to believe. Now I'm in the Grand Canyon, specifically the northern portion of the Grand Canyon. And the soldiers who go, because you have scientists go into the tunnel, archaeologists and stuff like that. Talk about being dedicated to your work. A lot of these guys, they just thought they were going to brush off little pieces of clay pots and go, that's it. I'll be a professor now. Now they're headed down there with armed escorts to check out these tunnels. he goes, yeah, the soldiers would come up and they'd be like, dude, it was crazy. I went down there and a big spider was attacking people. I mean, it's the same thing that happened yesterday and the day before, but you never get used to it. It's still crazy. People are talking about this. And it's like all of the horror movie tropes wrapped in one. Their tunnels are full of webbing, so that's already hard enough to get through. And then you got spiders of all sizes. So just when you think you've outrun the giant spider, a bunch of medium-sized spiders crawl into your pants. Because you're like, that was a close call. That was a close call. Let me sit on this white cottony chair in the shape of a ball in the middle of this spider-infested tunnel. And you sit on it, and it's a spider egg, and it explodes all over you. All the spiders go in your pants. I had a spider confrontation once. I'll tell it at the end of this story. You don't want to interrupt it. It's too crazy. Let's stay on task for this one. But anyways, you sit on egg, pants full of spiders are crawling into your underwear. You're like, all sorts of spiders. Well, Sam is not posted in the tunnels. He's actually posted outside the tunnel, which would be a pretty sweet gig. You get to tell people all the stories about the giant spiders, but you don't actually have to fight them yourself. AKA, you get to survive. You just get to sit at the front of the tunnel, being like, hey guys, good luck. Good luck. This guy is like, oh, I went down the tunnel yesterday and I don't feel good. His stomach underneath his clothes is all pulsating. You're like, are you sure you weren't injected with thousands upon thousands of spider eggs? He's like, nah, I think I'm good. I just had some Taco Bell last night. And his shirt's all moving. You start to see blood stain up here. You're like, okay, Jerry, have a good day down there. People are coming up telling spider stories. Sam doesn't have to really worry about it. Well, one day he's sitting there, whoop, 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 whoop. Quick response force. The blares over the loudspeaker. This is supposed to be like a secret mission. There's some tourists on donkeys. They're like, what? What's that? Why do we hear a military siren? Troops, get ready. You have to enter the tunnel. We have a problem. And the soldiers are like getting up, they're checking their guns and stuff like that, making sure they got the Gatorade on them in case they need electrolytes. They're like, go, go, go. And they're running into the tunnel. And Sam is still just sitting there. His job, he's like, oh, quick response force. Good thing I didn't sign up for that. He's all kicking back. He's like, I can drink Gatorade whenever I want. I don't have to wait until I lose electrolytes. I can drink one right now. Glug, 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 glug. Well, after a while, the quick response force comes up. He starts to hear coming from the tunnel, yeah, woo, woohoo, yeah, ha, yeah, we did it, yay, woohoo, yeah, woo, Bruce, and he's like, what, what's going on there? It's a surprise party. They're like, Sam's hella lame. Let's hold a surprise party and not invite him. They're like, how do we not invite him? He's a guard here. And they're like, I'll tell you what, let's have the surprise party in the tunnel full of spiders. He'll never go in there. He's like, Bruce, why are they shouting? He knows who Bruce is. He can't understand why they're cheering his name in the tunnel of death. They're all of a sudden they're cultists. They're trying to resurrect him with the body of a spider. And Sam goes, wow, something really cool must have happened down there. Because they're like hooting and hollering and all that stuff. And sure enough, he starts to see troops, some of this quick response force and some of the troops that had gone in earlier. He starts to see some of the troops leave the tunnel, and they're like, dude, that was nuts. Oh, man, giving high fives to each other. They're like, nothing in my life will ever top that. Oh, hey, Sam, did you have fun sitting out here in the sun, in the boring sun? They're like, woo. He's like, what happened down there? And then he sees some other guys carrying a stretcher, and on the stretcher is another soldier that he knows. We'll call him Tony. And Tony's just like laying there on the stretcher, and his leg is melting. Sounds like, what? What happened to you? What happened? I can guess, right? You went into a tunnel full of giant spiders. I'm assuming you got bit. And Tony goes, you guessed right, bro. I'm bit. Look at my leg. Look how disgusting this is. Looks like a chalupa left out in the rain. And it did, kinda. Sam was looking at the leg and he said, I could see the leg. I could actually see the pants were torn away and stuff like that. He goes, it looked like there was a single bite mark on the leg, but everything lower than that was melting. As he's looking at it, he still sees flesh and muscle tissue kind of just bubbling away. Tony's like, my leg. He's screaming as they're pulling him out of the tunnel. But then Sam's still standing there and he keeps hearing, woo, yay, Bruce, you're awesome, whoa. And he's like, wait, what? This guy never going to be able to walk again. Which, fine, whatever, you'll get a robot leg. But right now it's melting off. Like, it's the most painful way you can lose a leg. It's not like the spider just ate it. He can't figure out why there's a party happening in the tunnel until Bruce himself comes out of the tunnel and these people are like, yay, yay. And then people who didn't even go into the tunnel are like, Bruce, you're the man, dude. Oh, I heard what happened. Oh, it's totally awesome. Sam's like, what? Like, Tony got his leg. It's melting. Can't you guys smell that? I mean, they took him to the medical tent. I can still smell it. And Bruce goes, yeah, it's super crazy, right? This is what happened. This is why everyone's cheering my name as we're coming out of the tunnel, alerting more spiders. The spiders are being attracted by the sound. Bruce goes, what happened was we were all down in this chamber area. Us and some scientists. Tony was there. And all of a sudden, we got ambushed. It's like these guys waited for us to all be collected in this certain area. These giant spiders all attacked us at once. Now, luckily with these spiders, they have this weird quirk of biology. If you destroy just a few limbs, they'll die. Because they're so big, they have to have like constant hydraulic pressure. They have to have this really, really contained system. If you blow off a couple legs, all this fluid and gore is going to shoot out of them and they'll die. Basically, like if you cut the cables to a car and it just slows to a stop. But it's a giant spider who's trying to lay eggs in your belly. So what happened was we were down there and we go, giant spiders, this is just another day for us. What we would normally do is pop flares because the bright light hurts their eyes. The spiders would run back into the darkness, or even just by shooting at them. Because yes, if you destroy a couple of their legs, you can kill them. But have you ever tried shooting at a spider leg before? Even though these things are huge, their legs are kind of thin. They're spider legs. So it's not like you can line up a perfect shot and like one bullet knocks through four of them. You're in a dark tunnel. You're in their territory. This is where they live. They know this place like the back of their eighth leg. So a lot of times we would just shoot in their general vicinity, and the loud noise and the bright light of the rifle will scare them off. But not all the time. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Tony. Tony, one of these spiders, instead of running away, it actually decided to stand its ground, and it got a hold of Tony. It got a hold of Tony and immediately bit his leg. And injected this venom into him that's slowly melting away at the flesh and the muscle. It's pretty disgusting, sure. But I wasn't going to let this spider melt off my buddy's leg and get away with it. So what I did was I decided to save Tony. Probably if I was a little bit earlier, would have been able to save his leg. But he goes, what happened was I realized this spider had a pretty good grip on Tony and it bit in his leg. And I needed my free hands. I don't have 8 of them like the spider. I was out-armed. I was out-handed or whatever. Anyways, he's all trying to make jokes. You can hear Tony screaming, my leg! It's melting even more! How is that possible? The bone is melting! He goes, I was out-handed. Like, waiting for everyone to laugh. They're like, it's not even a phrase. He's like, okay. My point is that I had to drop my rifle so I could grab Tony to pull him away, and now I'm in a tug-of-war between me and this spider, and I realize that the spider's going to win. It is a huge spider from beyond reality, after all. So I pulled out my pistol. The spider is screaming, but the bullets aren't doing enough to it. He's like, oh, man. And he's trying to still pull Tony, and the spider's pulling him in the opposite direction. So Bruce says, I grabbed my knife and started stabbing the spider. The spider is still holding on to his fellow soldier. So Bruce goes, I did what I think any man would have done. I used my knife to cut off one of the spider's forelegs and then used the spider's own leg to begin stabbing it in the eyes. And he ended up stabbing all the spider's eyes. He's like, how many eyes does the spider have? Oh no, 100. He's like, I'm getting a cramp in my arm. Tony, do you mind if I take a break? I got my Gatorade here. Glug, 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 glug. And he's stabbing him with the other arm. Tony is just melting even more. He stabs the spider's eyes out, and it lets go of Tony, and then Tony is rescued. He put on that stretcher and brought back to the surface. And everyone was like they're like, that was so badass, dude. I can't believe you did that. Like, we just scared him off. You jumped in and you stabbed the spider in the eyes with his own legs. Like, bravo. And the commander's like, yes. Bruce, I'm making you captain. Now you're my boss, too. He's like, what do you want me to do, boss? The guy's like, I don't know. I just go kill spiders. Commander's like, yes, sir. Sam was there for a while, but eventually his team got rotated back out, which I'm sure he was kind of relieved about. He's like, Afghanistan? Oh, it sounds super relaxing. Sounds fantastic. Thank you, sir. You want me to go back to Afghanistan? Sure. Because, although he wasn't in the tunnels himself, you might say it's kind of scarier to be sitting outside the giant gaping entrance of a pitch black tunnel that is full of man-eating, flesh-digesting spiders, and you just sit there. It's like you don't know what's in that tunnel. At least the army guys going in, they can see. They have flashlights and stuff like that. They can look around. I probably would have brought dogs with me, and dogs scare him off. But anyways, he did get rotated out, but he said before I left the Grand Canyon, before this assignment ended, I did see some stuff. He goes, I saw a lot of items. Like, he doesn't really say what they were, but really anything man-made coming out of these tunnels would be weird. He goes, I saw them pulling out a lot of items and filling these plastic bins, bin after bin after bin, that they would sort through and analyze at some other location that was a little bit safer, right? That wasn't full of spiders. He goes, also, I saw them carry out a few spider carcasses for examination. Those are being shipped out, as well as a few live spiders. A few of these giant spiders. Maybe they settled for a medium-sized spider, but some of these impossibly large spiders were captured and brought to the surface and then shipped out to God knows where. Your hometown, maybe. You're like, I did see that Chinook helicopter land in the local high school last night. Wonder what that was all about. They captured some of these spiders alive, and that's what he saw come out of the tunnels during his time at the Grand Canyon. The person who posted this, someone had posted this on the export, and he said this story came from his friend who was in the military. And the guy who posted this on the export said also, and his friend had told him this stuff. He goes, he said his friend had told him all this crazy stuff. There have long been stories about ancient artifacts in the Grand Canyon. And they have also been debunked to a point that I don't know if I'm completely satisfied with the debunking. Really, the debunking comes down to, back in 1909, there was a single newspaper, the Arizona Gazette, that published a story of Egyptian artifacts found in the Grand Canyon. And this is where we start off with a little bit of it. Really, if these artifacts ever existed, the terminology is not that they were Egyptian artifacts, but Egyptian-esque. That was the only way that the people who saw them could describe them. They didn't say that it was actually like Cleopatra and King Tut mummies type of thing. But it was the idea that these items had hieroglyphs on them. So that was the terminology that was used, Egyptian-esque. No one was claiming that Egypt actually came to the United States, but they had that same type of writing on them. But then there's an even more of an odd debunk, where this story came out in 1909. The Smiths, and the story was about a local explorer named G.E. Kincaid and a Smithsonian researcher, a Smithsonian scientist named S.A. Jordan. And 100 years later, it took 100 years for the Smithsonian to say that story's not true. That story's not true. In fact, we don't have anyone named S.A. Johnson who worked for us now or then. The person doesn't exist. There were claims that they had these tunnels that go under there, underneath the Grand Canyon, and they found like a statue that was reminiscent of the Buddha. And one of these caves had a set of steps, like stairs carved in from the ground into the cave, but the steps were so high up, it's where the water level would have been around 3,000 years ago. And it's dropped a lot since then. So it would be perfect if you were going down the Grand Canyon in a boat. You would just get off the boat and walk into the tunnel, but now the stairs are way high up there. The big debunk to it is you go, well, there were no Egyptians in America, and again, that wasn't the thing. They were Egyptian-esque. The other one, the article's only been published in a single place, which was the Arizona Gazette. The Smithsonian, 100 years later, said that never happened. None of that stuff ever happened. But there are portions of the Grand Canyon that you cannot go. There are parts of the Grand Canyon where you are not allowed to explore. And, you know, you look, I see stuff like this, I see claims like this, so then I go to see if it's true. And yeah, there are parts of the Grand Canyon that you aren't allowed to explore. The reasoning is it's too dangerous. If you go to this place and something happens or you get lost, a rescue team cannot get to you. It's a great cover story. I mean, that might actually be true, and I'm sure parts of it are like that, but there are parts of the Grand Canyon that are definitely not available for tourists. Or really anybody. And there are hundreds of unexplored caves in the Grand Canyon. Like, we haven't even come close to exploring it. I know at one point I was reading this story, they wanted to know how big this cave was. I think it was the Army, they were doing some surveys, because it was the Army, because they were looking at a place to be able to store supplies in case of a nuclear war. So they came to this tunnel. I'll put all this in the show notes. They had this tunnel entrance, and they go, well, let's see how far back this tunnel goes. So they popped smoke, right? They threw smoke grenades in there, or whatever exact item they used, but smoke was then going through the cave, and it came out of an opening 100 miles away. So they go, oh, that's perfect. We can store tons of stuff down here. And then they didn't explore it. That's the story that we're told. They go, oh, okay, this cave will be perfect, but they never went in and mapped it. They just knew it was at least 100 miles long. So there are unexplored caves in the Grand Canyon, and there are places of the Grand Canyon you can't go. I personally believe that North America and South America did have more visitors than we know of. Whether they predated indigenous people, which there's evidence to support that, or I should put evidence in air quotes, because some people go, no, that's not evidence, that's this, that, or the other thing. But, or, you know, you have a Viking ship that's found in Arizona, or you find these weird relics, these Viking runes on the East Coast that predate the arrival of the Pilgrims and all of this stuff. You start to think, like, I'm sure people did get washed ashore. There might have been great civilizations here. We know that the mound makers in North America, the indigenous people, they don't know who made those. When they got to these areas with these huge mounds, they go, they were here when we got here. So there were societies on the continent before the indigenous people crossed over the Iceland bridge, the ice bridge. What's interesting is the Smithsonian has this doctrine called the Powell Doctrine. We've talked about before on this show. This is an actual document. One of the heads of the Smithsonian over the years, Powell, his last name is Powell, I don't remember his first name, it escapes me, but he said in this doctrine, we will not seriously entertain any societies that arrived before the natives. He wrote this doctrine. He goes, so the Smithsonian will not entertain those theories at all. And his reasoning was, he goes, the indigenous people here have done such amazing things with their societies, with the way that they were running things on this continent, that to then say, oh no, it was Vikings. They actually learned how to form these treaties from Vikings. They learned how to farm from a Spanish warship that run aground in 1100. Oh, no. They learned how to make clothing from giants in Nevada. He said it completely diminishes all the accomplishments of the indigenous people. So the idea is, from that doctrine, the Smithsonian would either debunk anything that was against the Powell doctrine, because he was running it at the time, or they would destroy it. And that's where you get these stories of the Smithsonian, someone uncovering some weird relic, and it's sent to the Smithsonian because that's who you think is investigating it, and they either put it in a box and say it's not real, they ransom test it's not real, or they destroy it because of the Powell doctrine. It's also interesting because the Powell doctrine is completely against the Mormon story of America. The Church of Latter-day Saints believes that there were many great empires in North America, and they were constantly waging war. That's where the Book of Mormon takes place in America, where the Bible takes place in the Middle East. And so the Powell doctrine was also kind of I think he also had a beef with the Mormons. Like, it was almost an implicit knockdown of this Mormon theology that these great empires and these kingdoms and castles and all this stuff once existed in the United States. So, who knows? I mean, listen, the Grand Canyon, a place that's a perfect, like, if you saw that, we see it now, we go there, we're amazed by the raw natural beauty of it. 3,000 years ago, you would see it and you go, wow, this place sure is beautiful. It is also an impenetrable fortress. I mean, there's one entrance. And everything else is surrounded by stone and possibly giant spiders. I haven't even gone back to that yet. But yeah, there's a chance that there are artifacts in these places in the Grand Canyon. And longtime listeners of Dead Rabbit Radio know I'm a fan of huge spiders. I love these stories, these giant spiders, especially when they get blown up. I'll put some of those episodes in the show notes. But the idea that in these unexplored tunnels that are completely... No one can go there. You can't go there. I can't go there. There might be a race of these giant spiders. The spiders may have always been there. And the locals, like the people who built all that stuff or put up all those artifacts under there, ran afoul of them and were consumed by the spiders. And spiders continue to exist, part of this ecosystem to this day in these tunnels. Or the people could have lived and died, and then 500 years go on, and then the spiders somehow reach those tunnels. Who knows, right? Because I love a good giant spider story. I think they're just super creepy. I'm not scared of little spiders, but I'd be scared of a spider the size of a car. And the idea of the army having to fight them is pretty dope as well. What they're doing in these tunnels, how would there be enough food to sustain such a large creature, even if it was giant and it was able to stay alive because of the hydraulic pressure? What do they eat, Jason? There's not a lot of stuff underground. How did they live this long? Well, you know, I don't have all the answers. I just love giant spider stories. I think they're pretty cool. And I always say we don't know what's underground. These endless cave systems. I don't really believe in hollow earth. You don't need it when you have thousands upon thousands of miles of cave systems that no human will ever see. You couldn't even visit them all. And I think it's really funny. We talk about drones in the skies and exploring underwater, and those are great, right? I'm not against space travel, I'm not against mapping the ocean floor. You never hear people going, we're going to map all the tunnels in America. We have drones now. We can fly them. We just have no one ever even brings that up. And that would be easier than going to space or going to water. You don't have to worry about air pressure. You don't have to worry about 1,000 atmospheres on top of your drone as you're trying to reach the ocean floor. You just fly through caves. They'd have to be able to go underwater at certain points, sure, but not 1,000 atmospheres on top of them. You don't have to worry about escaping gravity. You never hear anyone saying, let's explore, even like, let's find out what's in every single cave in Arizona. And I think there's a reason for that. I think deep down, we instinctively know we don't want to know what's in those caves. I think we know what could be in there, and we don't have the safety of tens of thousands of feet of water protecting us from something that, if it even breached the surface, would just die because it's used to all of the heavy pressure. Or something far off in the solar system or even the galaxy, a threat out there can seem fanciful. It'll never reach us. But if we truly knew what was in these caves that dot the land, that is a threat. It's a constant threat. And I think that's why instinctively we don't want to explore every single cave. Yeah, spelunkers will go into certain caves, but I'm talking about mapping them all out, getting video footage of all of them. Google Earth the caves. There's a reason why we're not doing that. Either the government doesn't want us to know what's down there, or on some deep level, we don't want to know what's down there. Bryce, let's go ahead and toss you the keys. Man, I don't know why my episodes are lasting so long. Oh man, I don't have enough time to tell the cannibal story. He's just like, well, okay, good. I'm glad with that one. I don't know, maybe you're a big Cannibal fan, Bryce. Do I have something else? This happened yesterday, too. Because the Cannibal story, it's going to take more than 20 minutes to tell. So, let's take a look here. You know, I don't have time to tell another story. I don't want to rush a story. I don't want to force a story. I was looking through, I'm recording this much, much later. I was editing that. I was like, I don't have time to tell the Cannibal story. I looked at some other stories to tell. Like, basically, Jason, are you telling me I should shut it off now? There's nothing else. Yeah, we'll be playing the exit music here in a second. Bryce, we're going to have you back for tomorrow. You're like, damn it, I thought I avoided the cannibal story. Am I going to be on the cannibal episode? Sorry, Bryce. I started recording a story about a time I fought 10,000 spiders with a can of hairnet hairspray. I did start recording a story about a time I fought 10,000 spiders with a can of hairnet hairspray. But it took me 13 minutes to say that single sentence, and that the whole thing was building up to that. You're like, oh man, what's going to happen? I was like a little kid. 10,000 spiders jumped out of an egg sac, and I didn't want to annoy anyone or bother anyone, any of the adults nearby. So I drowned them in hairnet hairspray. Those are, man, I'll tell you this. If you've ever tried killing a baby spider, they are not as easy to kill. Well, why don't you squish them? Just step on them. They're all over. They're all over the furniture and the table. I couldn't stop them, so I just started spraying hairnet hairspray everywhere. And did you know? I learned this later in life. I learned this kind of at that moment. I was like 7 years old, but I've confirmed it later in life. It's almost impossible to drown a spider. They can hold their breath pretty well. Actually, I don't know if they have lungs or whatever, but I do know this. It takes a lot of hairspray to kill 10,000 spiders. I was at church. I was at my dad's church. It was back in the 80s. And I was just going spraying them. First, I thought I would spray them and they would just fall over and die. Because, like, hairnet hairspray won't kill you or me, but I'm going to tell you something. If you get blasted in the face with it, you're not going to keep walking around. You're going to sit down at least and try to clean yourself up. I'm spraying these spiders with this hairnet hairspray, and they kept going. I had to basically drown them in it. I had to spray so much spray on, because you'd spray them, and they'd keep walking. So I'd spray them more, and they'd keep walking. I'd spray them so much they'd start to slow down, and I think the stickiness was starting to get activated with this. 10,000 newborn baby spiders, and I'm up there all by myself spraying them with this hairnet hairspray. Then the place mysteriously caught on fire later that night. Fire inspector's like, why did this one particular room, why did it smell like hairspray? And burst into flames. Uncontrollable fire. I remember I sprayed them all down. And here's the thing, as a child, I knew that I was annoying. And I know as an adult I can be annoying as well. That's why I always end the conversation first. I'll always be the person on the phone being like, okay, I'll talk to you later, bye. Because I don't want to have the awkward silence. I don't want to have the other person thinking, oh man, will he just get off the phone? So I'm always the first person to call up 911. I was like, hey, I need help. See ya, click. They're like, what? I know I can be annoying as an adult. I definitely knew I was annoying as a child. I think it's good to know your strengths and your weaknesses. I didn't go and get any help because I didn't want to annoy anybody. They was at a church and they were having a church meeting downstairs. They were like, what's that smell? What's that smell? Why does it smell like hairspray just seeping through the air vents? But anyways, I didn't kill them all. But I remember in the moment when I was fighting these 10,000 spiders who had burst out of these egg sacs that we just let sit there because we were kids and we were curious. We didn't tell anyone. There were a bunch of egg sacs. There were egg sacs on top of the David and Goliath books. I remember I felt like I was in a pitched battle. And I felt like I was in a pitched battle against an unstoppable foe as I was fighting these 10,000 spiders. And I also had this... I was also very curious about what was going on. Like, I remember thinking, like, wow, how much hairspray does it take to kill a spider? You know, like, I was watching their bodies react to the sticky spray that would eventually lead to their grave. I didn't kill them all, though. There was probably about, out of 10,000 spiders, I maybe got 1,000, maybe. But I just remember being very curious as I was... There was no cruelty into it. There's no cruelty in it. In my family, we had other than a daddy long leg, a kill on sight policy for spiders because there were so many black widows this was down in Riverside, California. If you saw a spider, you step on it. If it was a black widow, you put your shoe on the end of a broom and step on it. But I remember not feeling bad that these baby spiders didn't have a chance at life. I felt that I was doing a good thing because I was going to prevent 10,000 spiders from overtaking the church, right? A true warrior of God with his royal weapon, hairspray. But I remember just spraying them, and I watched them keep moving, and So imagine that story I just told you, but it took twice as long to tell it. It's not as exciting as a guy's leg melting. It's not as exciting as stabbing a spider's eye out with its own leg. But I'd mentioned it, or like I said, I'm recording this a day later. When I was editing it, I go, oh yeah, when Jason fought those spiders, maybe I'll tell that story. I mean, it's not the best way to wrap up an awesome episode, but I apologize. My episodes are running a little long. I'm trying to lock that in. Those first stories are getting longer and longer. But we will be back tomorrow. Bryce will be back tomorrow. He's like, nope, canceling my Patreon tonight. I'm not flying around with no cannibal stories. But we're going to have fun tomorrow. Well, I mean, as much fun as you can have with a serial killer cannibal. It's actually quite depressing. Might be one of the darkest stories we've covered on this podcast in a long time. But I hope you tune in. Or not. Sometimes you can just sometimes you can just skip an episode. And that works too. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is @DeadRabbitRadio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal conspiracy and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listen to it